the biggest problems in rural areas today are light and water. If you can solve those problems today, 60 or 70% of your problems will be solved in rural India as well as, I think, urban India. And they have the solutions with them. It's just a question of you trying to find out those solutions. Do you have the time? Do you have the tolerance? Do you have the patience to listen to them? And if you have, then they have the solutions right there. The trouble is that we who've gone through a formal system do not have the ability to listen, and we do not have the ability to find out how they communicate with you the solutions that they have already implemented for hundreds of years. So what we did was to start what is called the Barefoot College, which is the college only for the poor, built by the poor. In fact, it's a college which has been built by someone who still can't read and write today. It hasn't collapsed, it doesn't leak. And since 1986, we did it at $1.50 a square foot. But we thought that the stress on the environment was very important and we needed to set an example. So what we did was that we solar electrified the whole Barefoot College. It's the only college in India which has 45 kilowatts of panels on the roofs, and my telephone exchange, my electronic mail, my 500 lights and fans, my photocopying machine, all works off the sun. For the next 25 years, I have no problems with power. But what we said was that we had to set an example to show that the non-formal, informal system is as valuable, is as important as the formal system. So what we did was to identify traditional knowledge and skills which are already available in the village and apply them on a large scale for their own development, for their own improving the quality of life. The 45 kilowatts of panels which are on the Barefoot College roofs today were actually installed by someone who's only done 6 years of primary schooling. He's never been to a formal education system. But he knows more about solar energy than anyone in India that I know. And you know, the first stupid things all of us ask when you come to a village is, what is your qualification? As if it makes a very great difference. So I said, the first thing you better ask is how much work he's done. And then, if you're suitably subdued by the work he's done, then you may ask him what his qualifications are. What we did was that after we solar electrified the Barefoot College, we thought we would replicate it, extend that whole demystified, decentralized solution all over India. So now from Ladakh, from 1990, from Ladakh up to Sikkim, we have solar electrified about 500 villages which are fully technically and financially self-sufficient villages, and all run by people who still can't read and write today. We said, and we learned a lot of lessons on the way. The first lesson we learned was men are untrainable. It's the women who we like to train. So we actually identified women who have never left their villages in their lives, who can't read and write, and in 6 months in the Barefoot College, we train them to be solar engineers, and they go back and solar electrify their own village. We have some very formidable, powerful women who have never left their villages, and I believe we are the only college which does not give any certificates because we don't believe in certification, and the certification should be done by the community rather than by the college or the university. Because if you've been trained well and you can certify your own village and you can certify your own house, you don't need any paper certificate to tell you you're good or bad. It's the community that tells you you're good or bad. So by doing this, you know, it's very difficult to excite government of India in anything you do. With this approach of training women, the government of India got all of a sudden very excited and said, why don't you do this in Africa? Sorry?
Not India, but Africa.
India we've already done, but there's lots, but South-South cooperation, trying to see what we can do in Africa was a very challenging task. Over the last 3 years, if I may say so, we have solar electrified villages in 12 countries in Africa, and we have selected only mothers and grandmothers who have never left their villages in their lives and brought them to the Barefoot College in India, and through sign language, not using the written word, We've trained them in 6 months to be barefoot engineers, and they've gone back and solar electrified their villages in Africa. I have right now 36 women from 6 countries, from Rwanda, from Tanzania, from Uganda, from Gambia, from Ethiopia, all grandmothers sitting and learning how to be solar engineers. I think this is the solution in the future. Why aren't we investing more in women? Why are we ruling out the possibility that women cannot be engineers just because they can't read and write? Why are we not stressing more on these people and investing in them, making sure that people don't migrate? There is a whole, many empowerment issues that are associated with this whole area of demystifying and decentralizing. And I think this is the future. I think this is where we should really invest in India as well as abroad on the human side. You know what Mahatma Gandhi said, I'll end with that, he said, first they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, and then you win. Thank you.
That's good.
I'm a little mystified, Bankar, because you say you've done all this social engineering, but you never answer my emails. I don't know whether that power is actually working.
He can't read.
Can't read.
Well, I'm glad we've heard some specific things that can be done from Bankar, from Naina, and I thought I'd give Ravi a chance to maybe also come up with some additions to the list on small, specific actions that can be done to deal with this.
Okay.
Before I throw the floor open.
I think our country runs by examples. I think we need to, similar to the villages that Naina talked about in Gujarat and the kind of scale that Bankar has talked about here. We work by examples, and I would say, going into an area of my subject, I think we should take up one river, one degraded forest, one small city or small town, even a kasbah, and one cluster of villages that will benefit from an improved environment. If we are able to clean up a river which runs even 120 kilometers, or improve the status, the municipal status of one town, and show that up as example to others, lots of India will follow. And I don't think we have demonstrable examples where people have contributed to this sort of a thing, where it was completely degraded. From protection to protection, we have lots of good examples. From partial degradation to protection, we have plenty of examples. From virtually nothing to something, we have none. And I think this would make a big change. Let's not start by cleaning up the Jamna. It's going to take us a very long time. But there are many other rivers that we can start. I mean, there's a small river called Kalibain in Punjab, which has been cleaned up because of religious zeal. Similar examples could be done in other parts of India, but if we do this in peninsular India, it would make a difference across the world.
I was sitting in the session before lunch on income inequality, and one of the points that came out of that discussion was that in this large country of ours, there are a lot of poverty reduction schemes, government schemes, which have proved very leaky and not delivered any results. But at the same time, there are a lot of experiments that have been taking place, which have had very good results. And the pity is that not more is known about these successful experiments of what works, and therefore nothing is done to have it replicated and scaled up. And what you say is basically in the same line, that there are things that are happening, and we need to learn about these, communicate these to people so that they become aware of it, and then try and replicate this elsewhere in the country, and then think about scaling up.